Welcome everybody. I'm super excited to be bringing in the new series Back to the Basics with RPW Gaming. Yes, that literally means the basics of the game. So if you're at all familiar with the Beginner's Guide to War Dragons series right here on the RPW Gaming channel, then you kind of have an idea as to what is coming. Now, the Beginner's Guide series was a huge hit, but the problem is it is so outdated now because I started that like almost 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. I'm not even for sure. It was like a year and a half ago, I believe. So a lot of the things that's changed in the game and periodically will continue to change are pretty much not feasible in that series anymore. So I'm wanting to bring you guys a fresh new series where you can get all the most updated information if you're beginning or needing, the basic blocks of War Dragons. Now, I'm excited to get this started, so let's go ahead and jump in. If you're new to my channel, guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Now, this week's video is going to be an introduction to the series, so any beginner needs to start here. If you are player 0 through level 10, this video is going to be for you. Now, this doesn't mean that this series is only for that small of a player. As we go through, just like climbing in our levels, the videos will get more and more, knowledge based. You'll get more and more information. So welcome, and let's go ahead and jump in. Now, the first thing I want to talk about before we jump into the actual footage is beginners means. This literally means you just started the game in the last few weeks. So you don't know what seasons are, you're not understanding what a lot of the basic building blocks for a player under like a level 20. So this is where I want you to begin. If you have any player friends, or you decide to refer a friend, or you have a friend interested in the game or whatever, this will be a great series to share with them. And they will all be in a playlist in order from this point on. So you'll be able to share the entire playlist with them. And the video series, this one today will be pretty long just because it is an introduction. But as we move on forward, there'll be 5 to 10 minute videos max. So it'll be a great way to be able to just go in and search, and you'll see by the title what that is specifically about. And there won't be a lot of, run around. It'll be very much on that one particular subject only. So be sure to keep an eye out, and I look forward to building those basic blocks with everybody. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the tutorial phase of War Dragons. When you're going through the tutorial phase, it's going to, of course, give you some boring spiel about the game. Now, in this spiel, there is no real, anything really important about the imagery and the stories. This is just something to kind of show you the art and the beauty of this game. However, once you start jumping in and you've got the tutorial phase going with Ash, for example, she's really going to show you the basics of how the game is played. For example, whenever you're doing your attacks, she's going to explain to you how you attack with a hunter, how you attack with a warrior, and how you attack with a sorcerer. Now, usually, especially whenever you play beyond this, you're going to be able to actually see in the very beginning. It'll tell you, tap the screen, slide the screen, or whatever. I know my mom had trouble trying to decipher between each one. So she would look at them and she'd say, okay, this one's a dragger. And for her, that correlated with being a warrior. And then she'd say, okay, this one's a tapper. So the tapper meant that she had a hunter. And it was so funny to watch her because she'd be like, oh, I got a swiper. And so she'd start swiping. And I would be like, what are you doing? And she'd explain to me that that was the best way for her brain to process what it is she had to do with that dragon. So when it comes to the basics of learning to fly the dragons, use your own little tools to help you remember what each one does. Okay, so to kick this particular video off, I would like to do the top 10 tips for a player under level 10. We do have some other things coming as well, but these are going to be the 10 things that would be the basic building blocks of those who are just starting out. The things you really should be watching out for. Now, my number 1 tip, of course, is understanding spells. Now, we're going to be doing our next video on spells, the very basics of understanding them. But if you don't understand spells and the abilities that your dragons have, you're not going to be able to fly them properly. So always pay attention whenever you unlock a new ability to that video. I know it can seem boring and pointless, but trust me, a lot of these spells will be with you for a very long time. Sometimes they barely change them. Okay, so tip number 2 is going to be dragon growth is more important than your level number. And what I mean by that is your level number grows with your base, not necessarily with your dragons. So you can get yourself to a point where you are facing other bases and other level bases that are far beyond what your dragon can do. So be sure to put all of your energy into breeding your dragons. So for example, make sure that a lot of your resources goes into, and a lot of your time into things like breeding dragons. And we'll go through that a little bit more in detail later. But remember, dragon growth is far more superior. So when it comes to tip number 3, it would be there are never enough egg tokens. You can never get enough, guys. So you really need to push hard on egg tokens. And one of the best ways is to do your egg missions daily, which we will do a video on just egg token missions later on in the series. But this is going to be a big one, guys. If you don't have enough egg tokens, you're not going to be able to level up your dragons and breed them the way you want to. So my biggest tip is to make sure every single day you check your egg token bonus mission area where the little egg tokens are, and really focus your attention on those, especially if you have an elite account, because you're actually going to get a bonus amount at the same time. So this is a huge key factor. Start that early on. Okay, so tip number 4, push to maximize your tower level before you start new ones. Now, this is actually a big tip that a lot of players try to share with smaller level players. And a lot of times they say it like, build up, not out. Try to max your towers. Don't go too big. Don't unlock all your islands. There's going to be a lot of players that are going to tell you things like that. Now, the reason is because the total attack power is going to grow with the size of your tower versus the amount of towers. So it's going to be really easy to build these littler towers, and very tempting to keep doing that to get those points in an event or to grow your level up as fast as possible. But trust me, as your level grows, it actually gets harder with those smaller level towers. You're actually better off to get them as maxed out as possible, as large as possible, until you can't go any further. Now, be sure to check back, because we're going to go over towers, leveling towers, base building, and so forth later on in the series that I think will be very useful to you, so you can better understand these concepts and why it is so important. All right, so tip number 3 is to do your quests. Now, the quests are actually something that is going to reward you and teach you some more of the basics of the game. With that being said, be very careful and leery. It doesn't mean that it's going to teach you the best aspects or the strongest strategies, but if you just do exactly what it says to do and not beyond that, you're going to be able to get some special rewards and understand more aspects of the game. Now, with that being said, one of the things it's going to have you do, of course, is set up a pocket ID. Not only are you going to get a reward from this, but if for some reason you find yourself having to delete the game, you're going to now be able to jump back in. And all you have to do is create an account by putting in an email, which I don't want to put a real email here because, well, I don't want everybody to know the login information. But this is going to give you a reward, which is rubies, which is always great. So that is a big one. Do your quests. Number 6, join a good team. Now, joining a good team has a different definition for everyone, but when you're this low of a level, there is a very clear, point that I want to make for a good team. So whenever you finally build your meeting hall, you're going to actually pop up the ability to unlock teams. Now, the real big thing you want to do is not just join any random team. You're going to want to click that information button that's beside the join and really look at the team activity, and of course, the player levels on that team that can help you. Now, what I mean by player levels is if you join like a team, for example, like this one, there's a lot of players around your same level. It's not that they can't help you, but something like this team is going to have a lot more options for you to be able to reach out to for example, resources. So this is a big one. Make sure you choose your team wisely. Make sure the activity level's up and that they've got decent sized players. No matter how much you're willing to play the game or how obsessed you become with it, one of the biggest things that I would say is tip number 7, log in daily. Now, I'm not saying give away your life to the team. Or to the game. You should definitely have balance in anything in life. But just logging in every day is going to give you rewards and allow you to make sure that you're able to keep up with what your team is requiring of you, whether it be a war, for example, or it be something in an event or whatever. But you're not going to be able to get those extra little goodies if you don't at least log in every single day. Of course, this is one of those things that I'll give you later on in another video. We'll go through the daily tasks you should be doing. But one example is at the Bounty Harbor, you're going to be able to gather up prizes every single day that you log in. And these are free. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have to go anywhere. All you're having to do is simply log in and click. The same with the egg tokens that you're going to find in your team meeting hall every day. So be sure to log in daily so you can get those extra goodies. So going in for tip number 8, the research that you do in the research hall is very important. I know some high-level players that have to go back and backbreed things because they skipped out on this, or they, utilized their resources a little bit off, so they didn't get the research done. Or like myself, you researched things that didn't even really pertain to what you were going to use in the future. So we will be going over the research hall more detailed on another video, but the big key thing here is make sure once you build the research hall that you're doing that research. Now, the reason is because in the research hall, you are going to be able to get major amounts of bonuses in your daily expenditures. So for example, this is showing right here that I'm going to be able to get an increase on my farm production, which only takes a few seconds. So every time you get those extra eggs, be sure that you're working on these. Now stick with the main line. And like I said, we'll go through the details on this. Don't go off the little branches until you've watched the research hall video coming up soon. So be sure to do those research because this is going to be a huge thing in your game. Tip number 9, don't waste heal potions. Now, as you get larger in the game and you get bigger points and events, you're going to gain lots and lots of heal potions. But once you're in between like the levels of 60 and 90, heal potions for some reason become very hard to attain and hold on to. And I'm not 100% certain why that tends to happen, but I've noticed it with many of my own players and with my own experience. So heal potions are how you will actually heal your dragon before it's healed instantly so that you can actually go ahead and begin another attack. Now, I'll go ahead and show you. For example, I went out and I went on an attack with Trollus. Now, one thing about Trollus is he's such a tiny dragon that he's not very strong. So, of course, he's going to die pretty easily on this base. But the big key factor here is the weaker your dragons, the smaller your dragons, the quicker the heal time. So, of course, I now went through and I finished this off, big RPW here. But once I finished this off, this meant that now my dragon is in damage mode. So now he has to wait until he's completely healed before we can go out for another attack. So if we're going to go through, I'm going to go train him real quick, blah, 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 blah. All right, so let's set another attack and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so let's choose one here that I can get some good XP on. So 3 minutes and 1 second. Oh my gosh, guys, if you use a heal potion for this, you've got a problem. And unless you're in a serious hold time and you got to get going, these are going to be better spent on things that take 30 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours. Don't waste this on things that take just a few minutes. I mean, I sat and waited. I was like, oh, this is super easy. Just a few minutes, you can go get a drink, check on your kids, whatever you might have to do. So do not waste your heal potions on these unless you're really pinching for time. Now, using a breeding guide is my 10th tip that I think that even young players really should get into, because when you're using a breeding guide, you're going to be able to spend your egg tokens more wisely, and you're going to be able to understand the breeding guide much sooner. So I would look up breeding guides and breeding plans as soon as possible. I will do a video on this very soon, but seriously, this is a big one that a lot of us don't grasp until later on down the road. If you have any players on your team that are at least a 60 and above, talk to them, see if they have any information on this. Just randomly ask somebody in the league chat, whatever it might be. This is going to be important to your growth in this game. Absolutely, one of the most important things are growing and breeding those dragons. Now, there are easily 100 tips that I could have come up with for this video. But to me, this compiled the top 10 things that I felt a player under the level of 10 would need to know to be able to be the most successful starting out in this game. So that is the reason for these top 10. Now, when it comes to the rest of the series, I want to go ahead and give you guys a quick overview of what you can expect. Now, sometimes I'm going to be doing these video bases on tips because it's a lot easier to compile them for you to understand and break them apart. But there will be some videos where we actually just break down one specific subject. And there might be videos where we, maybe hit a double subject, depending on what it is. But most of the videos that you're going to see in this series are going to be very much searchable. So if you have something that you're confused about breeding, you click, look for something that says breeding, and it'll be in this series, and it'll give you little tidbits of things that you need to know. So like I said, a lot of these videos will be 5 minutes to 10 minutes, today being the longest video of the entire series. And I really look forward to helping anybody that's going to be new here to War Dragons. Now again, if you know anybody that is needing a little bit of extra help with those basic building blocks that they may have missed out on, be sure to share this series, because I think it's going to be quite exciting. Now a lot of these things might seem redundant to a player that's over a level 40, but I'm telling you, those 10 tips are going to be massive to anybody that's under a level 10. Anyways guys, that is it for today. I will see you next time here on RPW Gaming.